Just waiting for Joyce and the chairperson. I think the WIMBiz team is still trying to assign people.
Satya.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Board of Directors.
Good afternoon, Chair. You're welcome.
Good afternoon. You're welcome to Abegon Emergency Board meeting. Can we call this meeting to order, please? Do we have any apologies?
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair. We have 3 apologies. We have Ms. Neha Kalu, who's unavoidably absent, and we also have Ms. Shola Adiola and Ms. Ayo Egwaikaide. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we quickly go through the agenda of this meeting to check whether there are other things that needed to be added to the agenda? Any addition, any comment on the agenda, please? No. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we quickly review the minute of the last meeting? Yes. Yes, this is an emergency board meeting. We didn't have any board meeting earlier. We didn't have any emergency board meeting earlier. So I think we can quickly move to the chairman's opening remarks. You're welcome once again to this emergency board meeting. This meeting was called in response to the current legal threat by a client named Vital. And this is due to breach of contract between us and Vital. And this has resulted into negative press releases, which has huge potential for reputational damage for our organization. And it could also affect our acquisition of Ziba. And if we are not careful, this might also affect the bottom line of the company for this year. It's very clear that we have a big crisis in our hands. Hence, the reason for this board meeting. On this note, I would like to invite the CEO of our company to take us through all that happened and what management has done to reduce the negative impact of the crisis we are on. Over to you, our CEO.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to confirm who's sharing screen. Is Joyce here? Okay, so while we wait for Joyce, can I go ahead? While we wait for the screen to be shared.
Please.
Joyce is here.
Okay, great. So screen will be shared. All right, so once again, good afternoon, everyone. We have an issue on our hands, and I am providing the update to you as the CEO of Abegon. 2 things we want to bring to your attention: the legal threats by our client Oil Vita SA. We will call them Vita going forward, and our expansion, which has to do with the Ziba acquisition, which is supposed to enable us increase our footprint. Okay, so I'll go straight to just let you know, first and foremost, that we are the third largest indigenous petroleum products marketing company in Nigeria. And we have about 18 years experience as traders, and we have a chain of filling stations. With our experience, something that has stood out for us is that we are a leader as far as health, safety, and environment standards are concerned. We have earned several awards to this effect. Now, we are working to acquire Ziba because they are a North African trading company with distribution across Africa. This will help us increase our footprint and help us become the largest PPMC in Africa. The company's HSE reputation is key for this Ziba acquisition. It's really important that we go through with this deal so that we can increase our profitability in the coming years. Now, I am going to present to you the background to this current legal threat, and then I'll share with you the outcome of the analysis that the different teams in the company have done to address this threat, and then present to you what our possible solutions are, and then share with you our recommendation. We will shed some light on the implementation plan as well. The overview of what we are discussing today is, first of all, the threat of legal action by the client following the breach of contract, then the negative press that has come about as a result of that. And this negative press is just that part of the draft statement of claim by Vita leaked to the press, and the reputational impact that's already brewing as a result of that, which is constituting a potential showstopper for the Ziba acquisition. So our problem statement really is in twofold. First and foremost, the issue, the cause of this whole thing, which is the central bank floating the naira against the dollar, and what has come up as a result of that, the substantial increase in the cost of capital for this transaction that we went into with Vita, and the increase in this cost posing a serious threat to our financial stability and with potential impact on our strategic objectives. Now, the second part is what has come up as a result of this floating of the naira against the dollar, which is the fact that in our bid to respond to the crisis, we were unable to meet the timeline for opening the letter of credit for Vita with respect to this transaction. And Vita has now threatened legal action against us, and they have also inadvertently, or we're not sure about that, leaked a portion of the statement to which has gotten to the press and is causing some reputational impact. We want to address this quickly and promptly so that we can mitigate any further damage and ensure the success of the Ziba acquisition. So twofold problem statement, the impact twofold. One, financial, second, reputational. Financial, we talked about the 45% increase in cost. We've also talked about the legal fees that may come as a result. So we have 100 million legal fees, and then we also have potential penalty of 500 million naira. And there's also the erosion of profits from this transaction as a result of this hike in exchange rate. Reputational, we've discussed that already. The other part is related to reputational, the heightened regulatory scrutiny that we think will come as a result of this negative press. Okay, so to help you understand a little better what has happened here, in case you're wondering how did we even get to the place of having a legal threat like this, on April 1, we entered into a contract with Vita, and the plan was the basis for that agreement was that we would issue a letter of credit to them by May 1 for the purchase of 150,000 metric tons of gas oil at the cost of $117.2 million. Now, at that time, the rate was 650 naira per dollar. By the time we got to the end of April, the rate was 810 naira per dollar because of the floating of the naira against the dollar by the Central Bank of Nigeria. This is something that Abegon has no control over. We decided to wait and see if things would stabilize, if the rates would stabilize again to what it was at the time of the agreement. But by the time we got to May 1, the day we were to issue the letter of credit, the rate was 850 naira per dollar. At this time, Vita country manager threatened severe consequences, including legal threats. And our management, based on the assurances from Forex traders, reached out to Vita to ask them to hold on to the middle of June. By mid-June, the rate had gone up even further to 950 naira per dollar. And we tried to engage further without success. But by July 10, Vita issued a 7-day ultimatum to the company to open the LC or face legal action. And somehow, part of the draft statement they had made, which alleged that we contracted them to supply gas oil with 5,000 ppm sulfur content, which is above the regulatory limit of 50 parts per million. A portion of that statement leaks to the press and is causing us negative press. So we have to deal with this issue so that it does not affect our plans going forward. At this point, I would like to call on the ED Chief Finance Officer, Elizabeth Echo, to help us walk through the analysis that was conducted on the state of our finances as an operation and what this threat could the impact this threat could have to our financial status. Please, Madam Finance Officer, over to you.
Thank you very much, CEO. Good afternoon, Mrs. Chairman and other members of the board. Just to add a little bit more color to what the CEO has said with respect to our finances. So revenue has grown this year at about 34% month on month from January to June now. However, this revenue has not grown at the rate that we expected it would grow. We're very bullish when we started this year. And so as you can see from the graphics that our revenue actual is actually below our budget. And so we are below budget by over about 33%. And really what has caused this has been the unstable macroeconomic environment we found ourselves in. So we've seen inflation increasing, and this has led to high interest rates and the FX volatility. So because of that, we've had to adjust our prices. And the aftermath of that is the low volume in sales that we are actually seeing. And we also saw that our cost has also increased significantly because of the high inflationary rate. There was clamor by staff to increase salaries, and so we increased salaries by about 25 to 30% on an average across board. So that has led to our cost increasing, and revenue has not grown as much as well. So what you find is that our cost to income ratio is rising, but our net margin with respect to the profits that we are making on our sales, when you take out the cost, is actually decreasing. Now, the issue with Oil Vista has further compounded our financial woes in the company. So as mentioned by the CEO, we've had delays in opening the LCs with our banks because the economy was experiencing FX shortages. And then we then had, with the incoming government, we then had the unification of exchange rates, which led to the jump in the official price to catch up with the black market price. And we've seen that month on month, the FA Naira depreciating against the dollar. We've tried to do a forecast of what the likely exchange rate will be in the future. And we see that by September, it's likely that the rate will get up to 1,300. And that would double our cost in Naira terms of that acquisition if nothing is done in the short term, in the immediate term, to take care of that. We have been shopping with our bankers, and we've been shopping with other banks to see how we can get more affordable rates to be able to close this deal. So we are still in talks with our bankers, and hoping that with all the actions that we are going to take and the immediate the need to close out this transaction immediately, we will have to close that out as soon as possible, but being aware that we'll definitely be paying market rates to be able to close out that transaction. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizabeth Echo. At this point, I would like us to have a view of what the company has done. We had to react fast to what was going on, and so we took some steps in our crisis management plan already. At this point, I'd like to ask the Chief Risk Officer, EDHSE, to provide us a view of what we have completed so far in response. Over to you, Joyce Akabogu.
Thank you very much, CEO. So, so far, what we've done is in response to the alleged breach of contract, the potential lawsuit. What we've done is we've gone back, we've looked at the contract again, and we are in the process of renegotiating it. We've considered renegotiating it. We've also requested a meeting with the current country manager. That's on the one hand. Then in respect to the negative publicity, while we are still unsure of the source of the leaked negative publicity, however, what we've done is adopt a three-pronged approach for engaging the core stakeholders. First is internal approach, which is basically engaging our colleagues, our employees across all cadre to inform them on the actual put our own story forward to them so that their confidence in the institution is maintained. And then the second strategy we have in mind is engaging with the media houses themselves, who have been the core source of this information being disseminated. So they are also actually aware of the actual incidents, the cause of incidents. And finally, we're looking at our regulators and government affiliations, and so that we can also put out the correct story out to them. And on the third leg, we're dealing with the fall of the Naira against the dollar. We've engaged financial advisors and previously, and we are still in talks with financial advisors for the outlook of what the exchange rate would be like going forward. We also recognize as a fourth plan for crisis management the role of getting back the regulators' confidence. And so we've submitted an extensive report on the allegations being made against Abegon to NMDPR. We are sending regular updates to the Federal Ministry of Environment and the Federal Consumer Protection Commission. The company has continued to maintain very strong and transparent relationship with the regulators. So thank you very much, and I hand over back to the CEO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Risk Officer, ED HSC. Thank you very much. So now I would like to present to the board the possible solutions, and I'll start with the first one. We have two. Our first option is to go on the path of peace, mediate with BITA using the third party, which is provided in the contract. And this will be followed by high-level renegotiation. And in this renegotiation, we are going to bring forward the defamation as a bargaining chip, because part of the information BITA had about the parts per million of sulfur in the gas oil was false. We will also issue the letter of credit based on the renegotiated contract. Now, the advantage of this is that the legal threat will be eliminated, and we will also minimize the impact to the silver acquisition, because this will clear the record as far as our reputation is concerned with regard to HSC. The disadvantage of this is that we will still be faced with the financial loss from this transaction as a result of the increase in exchange rate. Now, the second part, second option, is for us to withhold the letter of credit and then proactively release statements of claim to counter BITA's statement. And in that statement, we will include a claim for libel against BITA. Then we will pursue the litigation to its logical conclusion, since our counsel has advised that we stand a good chance of success. Now, the advantage for this would be the outcome of the potential win, right, in the libel lawsuit against BITA. But there are a number of disadvantages. First is that the lawsuit is going to be coming at us by an international distributor. And we know that this will come with legal fees. This will be a distraction for our operations. We don't need that right now. We will also have reputational impact, because this will be a long drawn out battle in public view, and there might be potential boycotts from some of our other clients. This will also affect international relations with internal relations with our regulators and clients. So there's a potential for increased regulatory scrutiny. Now, the second thing is the need to source for an alternative. We've already gone this far in the deal with BITA. If we if we decide to go with another vendor, we have to start all over again. There'll be potential delays in restocking and possible loss of revenue from no sale if we get to a position where we do not have product to sell. And then there's also risk of fraud because we'll be pressed for time to complete our due diligence comprehensively. And as in the first case, we still have the financial loss related to the increased cost of capital. So what we are proposing, what we are recommending is to go with option 1, which will save us the extended time in a legal conflict. And with this, we will be able to implement our contingency plan and then issue the letter of credit and then prioritize reliability to ensure that we have continuous inventory. Then would also revise our selling price for gas oil to mitigate the financial loss from the transaction. I mean, some of the costs is going to have to be transferred to our clients, the people who buy from us. And then we will go ahead to finalize the silver acquisition, which is paramount. And we will explore international markets due to high prices of oil globally just to increase our revenue. So at this point, I will once again invite back the ED, the Chief Risk Officer, to please take us through what the remaining part of the plan is. So this is what we will be implementing right after. Back to you, please, Joyce Akabuke.
Thank you very much, CEO. So so we start again with the 5, this time if it's a 5-pronged approach to resolving the issue. First of all is the breach of contract and the potential lawsuit. So the plan is, as I said earlier, we begin to renegotiate the contract with Vita. And in the event that this doesn't go the way we hope, we start identifying global financiers immediately to help us mitigate the impact of the loss that may come from if Vita insists on going the way of the original contract. The next item is the negative publicity. The plan is to engage the press extensively. Press report platform that allow us to enforce, and so that we're able to disassociate ourselves from the HSE, the rumor of us being in breach of HSE standards. We're also looking at a more holistic way of dealing with the Naira. Again, as we know, this but industry-wide problem, and it is not one that we can go in the way of advocacy, starting now and going Major Energy Marketers Association of Nigeria, approach DAPMA, the Depot Owners Association of Nigeria, so that we can come to, first of all, we can engage for us to be able to the differentiating costs at the advocating that they provided where that some government-owned institutions at a lower rate. So it makes the business. We'll continue to engage along the advocacy lines vigorously and trying to maintain the heightened attention going forward. And for a while, we would have regulators visit facilities nationwide. And so what we have done and will continue to do is put documents in place so that at a quick glance, as far as goes, we are also working on an African key stakeholder countries, particularly those we are looking to engage when we do and hopefully acquire ZIBA. So we're engaging with their regulators, we're engaging with their key players, and pushing opportunities and can sponsor and make our brand. And as the final leg is the ZIBA, we are to engage with the owners and also where ZIBA is currently. We begin to, particularly those countries who have ratified AFTA and are keen on implementing its provisions. We're also identifying financiers who can include in this acquisition process. Thank you very much, CEO. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chief Risk Officer. Please, at this point, I would revert to the board for questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anita. Thank you, CEO and the management for all the steps towards reducing the negative impact of this crisis. Having listened to management, it's very clear that this crisis we are 33% down below budget, coupled with high expenditure with negative effect on the bottom line through decline in profitability. Now, management, they've proposed two options. Option one, mediation. Option two, to pursue the legal action to logical conclusion. On this note, I would like to invite the board of directors and recommendations on how to move forward from this crisis that we have find ourselves. The floor is open for discussion. Board of directors. Thank you.
CEO, Dr. Elizabeth's, Chairman, Dr. Elizabeth's hand is up, please.
Dr. Elizabeth, over to you, please.
All right, thank you, the chair, and thank you, CEO. All right, so I have two questions. I need clarity on them. Okay, so talking about the mediation, and I would like to know how we'll select the third-party mediator. That's the question one. And then the second one is what is our strategy, going into the mediation? What are our key objectives and our desired outcomes?
Okay, thank you very much. I will defer to the Chief Risk Officer to provide a response to those questions.
Thank you very much, CEO. So in reference to the first question, mediation and who we're looking at identifying, it's already contained in the terms of agreement that we would identify and use a particular third party. And so we've identified this person way before the incidents came out. So, and we are going ahead to engage this gentleman now. And to your second question about the strategy for engaging. The first strategy we mentioned, and I think the CEO mentioned it earlier, is we want to be able to renegotiate the amount we had earlier committed to. So if we go with the amount we had originally committed to, we'll be making a significant loss. So we're trying to see if they would allow us to a reduced amount. And so that's one of the major strategies we are deploying. The other strategy is to ask if we can be joined with another buyer We are aware that they're distributing to other, they have other distribution channels in Nigeria and other buyers. So to ask would consider the product being split between us and one of their buyers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I would like to add that one of the things we intend to emphasize is the fact that this was force majeure, and we have provisions in the contract to allow us to claim this. It's something that was an act of the government, right? This time, not an act of God, but an act of the government that Abigon has absolutely no control over. So we intend to use this as part of the appeal in our engagement.
Thank you.
Back to you, board.
I can see Lauren's hand up. Over to you, please, Lauren.
Okay, thank you. I don't mean to take us backwards, but I did have some concerns, and I'd like to see if we can address them. I was just wondering what the delegation of authority is, because I would like that shared. I'm wondering why the CFO was not consulted in the initial FX contract deal. It appears from board papers that the CEO spoke to a friend about this rate. I don't believe that's protocol. And I would like to see the delegation of authority on that and why the CEO was not involved in that conversation. Secondly, I believe all these deals are done on contract. Why was this one not done on contract? And why were we caught unawares for the FX rate change? That should not happen, especially for a company of this robust size and such a board with executive directors. Conversationally, I would, well, let's answer this question first and then we can circle back. Maybe the answer will give me the
Okay, all right.
Question.
Okay, so I'll take the first one and the Chief Finance Officer will take the second one. So for the first one, we engaged first and foremost internally when we first had the floating of the Naira against the dollar. So we had our internal teams led by the Chief Finance Officer looking into this issue to try to project where would this exchange rate go, and then to come up with the initial response that the company took. This informed some of those decisions and some of those actions that we took that we shared earlier in the crisis management plan. Now, for the friend, it's unfortunate how sometimes people phrase things in this way, but really, this friend that we're talking about is one of the top 10 best CBN-regulated forex brokers, and I'm speaking of the IC markets. They offer a wide range of financial instruments, including forex, commodities, and indices. They are known for reliability, regulatory compliance, and comprehensive trading services. So they are actually a very strong partner when it comes to forex marketing. The thing is, we have been working with them for so long that we refer to them as friends. I just wish that the person who was writing up that part would have included that this friend was a renowned friend who is very experienced in the industry. That's my response to that. Over to you, CFO, for the second question.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO, for the response. And then just to add to that response is to say that we had conducted our analysis. If you recall that before the current government came in, we had about 3 different rates in the market. We had the I&E rate, we had the CBN rate, and then you had the black market rate. Now, transaction, we're not done using the black market rate. They are usually done using the official or the I&E window or the NAFEX rate on FMDQ. And before now, FMDQ is our currency exchange, a fixed income exchange that used to also trade currency as well. And they had these non-deliverable forwards, with the CBN, who was the counterparty. And those were what we used to use to manage our FX obligations before now. Unfortunately, when this government took over, we expected that they would do something around the exchange rate, but we didn't expect it to general consensus in the market. We didn't think it was going to be this sudden, and we didn't think that we will have this significant jump in such a short time. What we had forecasted was, at worst, the exchange rate would get to that 650, which was what we used in negotiating that price. But the market took a turn for the worst. as it were. And really, there was no economist, based on all the publication we read, that ever predicted that we'll get to where we got to. So I think the highest we saw as a rate, prediction by most analysts, was around 700. And so that had given us that buffer in that forecast, which was what we relied on to negotiate that contract as at that time. Yeah, that'll be my response at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I hope that answers the question.
It just seems like there was a verbal contract in place versus
Okay.
a written solid one, and I think it's something we should review going forward. There was nothing written down. There was no proper contract to solidify that rate. We know the Naira is generally not even a stable currency. Whether it's jumping a little bit, even by 1 Naira, it can make a massive difference when you're speaking about hundreds of millions of Naira in a contract. So I think it's something, it's not an emergency issue this second, but it's something we need to table for our next meetings. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may interject. This is the company secretary. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Madam Chair. It seems you're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Or it seems we have lost.
It's
Madam
temporary out.
Yes,
I
she's
think
temporary out.
It's temporary out. So let's just give her a few minutes.
Please, while we wait for Madam Chair, can we the two Kechi and
Yeah. So apologies. Can I go?
Yes,
Hi.
you can.
The first thing is, first of all, thank you for a detailed plan. One of the things that I don't see in the plan is, if the negotiations with Vital fall through, right? After all the efforts to do that, is there a plan for alternative sourcing of the products, right? So that we make sure there's no gap in the market. Maybe that should be part of the management plan, because the customers will still need to be serviced. And then I think on my second comment, right, would be around the impact change of the CBN regulations, right, on our business overall. So it may not be an immediate issue for now, but I think we should be thinking about other ways to be able to source foreign currency, even within the circumstances in which we are. So where are the customers that have the foreign currency, right, that allows us to be able to import materials needed for the products we actually sell. Experience would be to target the foreign airlines. So they will need, we will supply, to be able to engage them in long-term contracts for supply of aviation fuel. They need that as they come and go. And they are also settling their obligations in foreign currency, right? I think strategically, the way, short-term way to source for how we'll deal with the fallout of this crisis.
Thank you, Thank you very much. I think management should take that on board.
Okay, so for the first part, which is how we're going to find another source, we have methods, we have a process in place already that we use for identifying people that we can buy from. And what we would do is to reach into that pool and then start to do some kind of due diligence to identify the particular one that we will use, because it's going to be a really short window for us to be able to get product. So thank you for bringing that up. We will make sure there's a team dedicated to making sure that that option is readily available to kick in case this renegotiation doesn't go through. And for the rest of your council, we have taken note of it and we'll consider it for conversation. Thank you.
She's out. So,
Madam Joyce, time if we get one of the directs. So Ms. Ngeruju, can you please take over until the chairman returns? Thank you. Nkechi, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, board members. Thank you very much. We've listened. I think we should just move quickly, to resolution and action plan. We've listened to the management. They came up with two options. We need to deliberate and take decision on the two options. Over to your board of directors. They came up with the first option, which is the mediation. And the second option is for us to proceed with litigation.
Madam Chair, if I may, this is the company secretary, if I may.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, even though we have, we've retained, our retained counsel have advised that we have a good chance at litigation, my recommendation would be to explore mediation, because you know how litigation can be. We can be in court for the next 10 to 20 years with all the bad press publicity. So as company secretary, my recommendation would be, let's go the mediation route and try to get this sorted once and for all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, company secretary. Can we have more comments on this, please?
If I may ask.
Grace?
Yes, good evening. My hand has been up. Thank you for noticing, Madam Chair. So for the action plan, I also agree with the last speaker to say we could go with option one. However, I would like us to also bear in mind that we need to prevent a future occurrence by looking through our contract to review and see maybe a clause. We really cannot predict the economy or the inflation the way it's going in Nigeria now. Today is low, tomorrow is high. So we need to ask the legal department to probably look at our contract and see how we can also protect ourselves in the future against another company taking advantage of that gap. So I also agree, option one is a good action plan, better than option two, going the way of litigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I can see Dede's hand up. Dede, over to you, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone. Apologies, I've struggled with connectivity today. However, while aligning with option one, I would also like to advise that we leverage on data. So a more robust cost-benefit analysis when we compare option one to option two, without removing that option two at all completely.
and also leveraging on predictive data. So the likelihood that, because during the course of mediation, the key question will be costs. So what is the likelihood that the Naira will stabilize, and at what level can we peg for future contractual relationships? So I'm recommending that we have data to support the decision for mediation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dede, for that comment. Do we have any other comment from members? I cannot see any hand up. It's very clear that we all agree that option 1 is the best option in this circumstance. I also have 1 or 2 concerns regarding option 1, which management will need to look at closely. Management needs to come up with implication of unavailability of our products. What options are open to us? And how do we source these products immediately? We need to look at it and look at the risk implication of this. Yes, we want to mediate with them, which is very good. And also at what level? I believe that management should have engaged at the top level with the CEO of the company, with the CFO of the company, the view of resolving this earlier on. Unfortunately, this was not done, but it's something we need to take on board quickly, take into consideration and our many years experience with this company. Management, the CEO, Anita, how do you want us to proceed on this? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Chair. So for this, I am requesting or proposing that we go with the first recommendation, which is option 1, and I pray to the board for this to be approved so we can proceed with the implementation plan.
Yes, we are going to approve that, but we need to address the implication of non-availability of the product. Are we looking at options?
Yes, yes.
And also, how can we source products immediately, probably from another source?
Okay.
Or from another supplier.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Apologies, I misunderstood you. So yes, we said earlier that we have a process in place for identifying people who will supply us products. What we are going to do is make sure that that plan is ready to go in case we do not succeed with the renegotiation or with the mediation with ITA. We can quickly go to our plan B. So that plan is in place, and we are assigning a team to make sure that we are ready to go in the event of not being successful with the renegotiation.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you very much for that response. I also want to know if we are exposed to any regulatory breach, penalty, and if so, to what extent?
Okay, so we have checked in the past. We have a very good record as far as regulatory issues are concerned. So we have been identified as a company that has very high compliance with regulations, and we have won several awards to this effect. So our past record with different regulators is speaking for us even now, and we are even going ahead in our crisis management plan to engage the heads of departments of the different regulatory bodies that are relevant to our operation. So our exposure is low, very low.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, and also to my last question. What are the implications on our financials for this year? Because things are presently not looking up. What are the implications? What can we do quickly in terms of quick wins that will be able to turn this around positively? Is management looking at that at all?
Yes, we are. And I will ask our chief finance officer to, in just a minute, give us high level of what we are doing in that regard. Ms. Elizabeth Ekpo, are you there? Chief Finance Officer. Okay, so maybe we've lost her on the call. But what we have is that we are engaging with, first of all, our different stakeholders. We are trying to come up with a new pricing. This is from within the company to determine how we can recover some of the costs that we are going to lose as a result of this. So part of the cost will be spread to downstream to people who are buying from us. That's part one. Then part two, we're going to leverage as much as possible, getting involved in selling our products to other countries. And this is why CIBA acquisition is really important in the long term. But in the short term, the countries that are within and near us here in Nigeria will reach out to them. This is another way of us getting foreign exchange. So if we have purchases in other currencies, it will put us in a better position to mitigate some of the impact of this fall of the naira against the dollar. So there are other parts I discussed earlier, but there's a robust plan to address finance, because we see that if nothing is done about it, it could affect our strategic objectives in that are related to finance. So we are not sleeping at all on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. It's very clear now that we've all agreed to explore option one with all the recommendations, concerns, raised by the board of directors. And the one that is very key, which management should take on board, is engagement with the top level of management, with ZIBA, with SITA, that is our client that has instituted legal action against us. Quickly, management should engage with the CEO and the CFO to ensure that we're able to resolve this issue. Company Secretary, I hope you've taken all minutes in respect of all resolutions and actions to be taken.
Madam Chair.
In addition to that, I would like management to include timeline. How long is it going to take for us to turn this situation around? Okay. I think within two months, we should be able to. But over to you, CEO. Let's wood.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So there are some actions we already completed within the first few days to weeks of this crisis brewing. And in our crisis management plan, what's left of it, it's running from weeks to months. So we have a number of the items which will be completed within 48 hours, some within 1 week. The part of engaging the government and using the industry associations will take up to a month. We are hoping that we can gather the rest of our competitors to go this, and especially the part that has to do with the acquisition of ZIBA. But we have different things that are on top of this and are trying to make sure that our response is prompt and effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO. We need to take all that on board and come up with the timeline. Thank you very much. Is there any other business? We are coming very close to the end of this emergency board meeting. Any other business, please? Distinguished ladies, board of directors of Abegon. Any other business, please? Any other business? In the absence of any other business, will someone move motion for adjournment of this emergency board meeting?
I move the motion to adjourn. Anita Baturi, CEO.
Anita, just a second. I think we need to decide on the date of the next board meeting to review what we have done thus far. Can we say the next 30 days to review again? Or 60 days? What do you think?
I will go for 30 because of the
Okay. So we meet again the next 4 weeks. Date and time will be communicated to board members. So we can then adjourn the meeting at this point. Another motion for adjournment of the meeting. Who is seconding the motion, please?
Seconded by Elizabeth Ogunshola.
Sorry?
Seconded by Elizabeth Ogunshola, the independent director.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. On this note, the board meeting is hereby declared closed on the next emergency board meeting, by which time we believe that we'll be able to resolve all this crisis and move forward from where we are currently. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending this meeting. Thank you. Thank you for the interest shown in that company and for your commitment in ensuring that we're able to resolve all these issues and for the interest of this organization. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Please don't leave. Stay in the meeting.
Okay.
I get your score.
Feedback time.
First of all, I want to greet my senior in the industry. This is Babington Ashaye. Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon. How are you?
An honor to be here. So first of all, to a general comments to the team. I really liked your choice of scenario. I understand that you built this scenario on your own, and I love that it's multifaceted. It's very real life. It's never one issue. So yeah, that was really very, 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 very good. Then I'm speaking broadly first of all, and I'll come a bit. We have some time. I believe we have 30 minutes, so we'll come to specifics. Then, as a management team, I like your style, the style that you chose. There are different options, but the style that this team came up with is my preferred option, where there is a CEO report, but you get feedback from different parts of the management included in that. What I think that does for the non-executive directors is that it builds confidence in that the team is working and hasn't been coerced by the chief executive. I love that when questions are raised, it's not just the CEO responding. There's the opportunity for other members of management. I think it's really important because non-execs you get a report, and sometimes, it's last minute and you don't have the full context. So I really appreciated that. Still speaking broadly, one of the concerns I have was from the non-executive directors. I agree, there's protocol, and it's important to ensure that the meeting does not become rowdy. However, your voice is critical. And in Nigeria, and you have a fiduciary responsibility. So if you see that your hand is up and you're not being addressed, the chairman hasn't noticed, it could be an oversight, it could be a technology challenge. I would say that as non-executive directors, you need to just shout out, and I might have missed that, but sometimes your hand is up, and if the meeting is going ahead,
and your issue hasn't been voiced, you haven't had the opportunity to voice it, you need to say, Madam Chair, my hand is up. I would like to address this. It's important not to let things get rushed. Also, speaking generally still, I think that I would have liked to see more exploration of option one, because there are two options given. And even in one of the submissions, there are very few advantages to option two, if any at all, and there are a list of possible advantages to option one. But then let's critique it. A number of the issues that were raised as possible action points for later could actually have been discussed in the meeting. Often what is the case is that the management has a view. So I think if we go to the example that was used of FX, when that was raised as a question to management, then we found that even though it wasn't necessarily detailed, the management had given it some thought and did have a view. So it's very possible that issues such as the implication of non-availability of product is something that has been considered, or that they have options of, that they could present to the board for their advice and steering. So it's an opportunity for the non-executive directors, who typically come from wider areas than whatever the company is in, to actually say, well, if these are the things you're considering, from my point of view, perhaps go in this direction, or be wary of Y direction. So I find that, I think as a general feedback to all the non-executives, it would be to try and engage the management during the meetings, as opposed to giving them. If you engage them and you find that they don't have an answer, then you will find that the management will, on their own, will say, on this point, this is a takeaway for us, and we will come back to you. And then you get the issue is to say, then please come back to us, and within X timeline. Because one of the things that we don't have are clear comebacks and within specific timelines. And this is something that is critical for the CEO made a point of saying, we note this and we will take action, but not on all. And there's a possibility that that's because it wasn't clear enough and hadn't been engaged enough. And I don't know what your thoughts. Anita, I'm curious to understand why that happened, because some of the points you said, we take your point on board, we will action this, we will come back. But then there were other points raised by other directors, and I'm going to try. I apologize. I did try to make of this, but then yes, I'm curious.
Okay, so there were some that were clear. So I was able to say, yes, that one we worked on, so that one we worked on. And then there were some that were not very clear. And because I'm also conscious of time, so I didn't want to spend time asking, please, can you say that again? Can you explain what you mean? So my general response was, okay, noted.
So that's a challenge in real life, because as a CEO, there's no lonelier position, and you have these experts on your board. You have their attention 100% for a limited amount of time. They're raising an issue. Don't be afraid to say, Madam Chair, I need some more detail on that particular point. And yeah, you may run out of time, but especially if it's something that's critical to the decision that's being made at that point in time, I would encourage that. It just makes life easier. If this was a real life situation, you wouldn't be leaving this meeting with enough in hand to address option one. And you wouldn't also be leaving the meeting with all the advice that you could get, all the support that you could have gotten from your board. And the board hasn't given, you're not leaving with the clear red lines that if this happens, you need to come back to us, come back to the chair immediately. if this fails to happen, you need to come back to us immediately. You don't have clarity on that. And that's actually for the entire executive. So one of the things that I find, and I don't know if this is my style, and I'm not sure if it's encouraged or not, but during most of our board meetings where I'm an executive, you find that we're having side messaging one another. Is that I'm asking the CFO, did you catch that? Does that make sense to you? I just came off the executive meeting for Marsh Africa on Friday. We had our executive, and I was speaking to actually the chairman on a side note. That didn't make sense to you. Is that clear? Can we go back? You can't go away from these meetings without absolute clarity on everything, because it's minuted, and the expectation is that each of you, each person here knows what has to go on. And then company secretaries, if it wasn't clear to the CEO, how have you managed to capture it? Because there's an action point from the various non-executives. If the management are unclear on it, chances are you're capturing it is not clear. So it's just feedback. Madam Chair, I love the fact that you've been on many boards is clear to me. I think there are different styles. One of the things I have found beneficial for me is if at each point we ask the executives, we check on the executives. So I can't remember who it was, but one of the executives, non-executives, sorry, it was not clear to me that she was 100% certain that she wanted to go for option 1. Rather, it was clear that she wasn't comfortable with option 2. That is something that I think the chair should explore, should delve into. Ma, you're on mute, ma.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's something that the chair should steer into. And then Lara, as an NED, you made some very insightful points with regards to how did this happen, and how do we ensure that this doesn't take place again. That's my favorite point for any meeting. You need to come away knowing that you're going to have that captured. But I question whether or not that was the time, and you kind of knew that it shouldn't have been. Everybody has their own style. I personally would have waited for AOB, because this is an emergency meeting, so that the time that is limited is spent addressing the critical issue. And then you can pull this out, and then you can even say, come back to me within, I like clear timelines. I would like it sent back to the board what the DOA is, what went wrong, and how we make sure it won't happen again. And you can even decide who you want to hear from. You have your chief risk officer here, you have your CEO here. Who exactly are you asking? And I guess, Madam Chair, sometimes when you have, it's a difficult thing, because you have all these, all of our directors are, look at the people I'm speaking to here. Every board that you're on is full of dignitaries and important people. But I think sometimes you need to just say, NED, that's a good point. Company secretaries, can you take a note of it? This has to be addressed at the next board meeting, by which time we expect a report on X, Y, and Z, so that the valuable time that is limited that you have to address the key issues it actually is used for the purpose. Especially, well, in Nigeria sometimes we can, especially that if the blame game starts, it can really derail. It can really derail. Nkechi, I liked your pardon me, I'm using first names. I was trying to make notes as I went along. But in Nkechi, I think is a Egejuru. I liked your comments. It was forward looking. What next? And also part of the immediate action plan. That's exactly what you want from an NED. So, okay, if we're going forward with option one, this is my preference. It's clear what your preference is. You're telling us what next. I see this missing in your action plan. That's really the role of an NED as far as I'm concerned. Identifying the gaps and helping the management, because nobody is perfect, and you always have. If you have a good board, you're going to have value to bring that the management hasn't. If you're well chosen, that's the whole point. Company secretaries, I like that you kept the meeting going when there was a challenge. It always happens. Well done for that. I noticed that you were giving a bit more time. I think one of the things you can do is quite quickly come up and say, Madam Chair, NEDX has their hands up. I noticed you were being polite, and there's a balance, but I would recommend that you be more forthright and quicker, just in the interest of time. Often we have these meetings and people have to jump off immediately after one meeting into another, and you can't afford to lose that time. Yeah, I'm gonna open up. Can we have a conversation with, how much time do we have left?
12 minutes, almost, yeah, 12 plus.
Fantastic. So do we have questions for me, thoughts, comments?
I wanted to ask, which is, thank you, by the way, thank you. This has been really fantastic. The likelihood of such a scenario actually happening, that this surprise FX thing, this conversation about a contract that really actually, for a company this size, I mean, I know it was made up or whatever, but have you ever seen that kind of scenario where the CEO, maybe the execs, made that decision without the full board, something that big, or they went into a verbal contract and it wasn't ratified? It wasn't,
You'd be surprised. That's the reason why you have corporate governance in place.
Right.
I'm trying to think of examples that I'm allowed to share that will not breach confidentiality. What I'll say to you is 100%.
Right.
100%. There's often overreach and also a lackadaisical attitude sometimes on the part of executive management, because it's their money.
Right.
And that's why you have these structures in place that you're learning about. 100%.
Thank you.
Okay, let me go. I'm just going to take my time now and go through my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything. Yeah, I think the main one is that we could have gone into the detail of option one more, and we didn't spend enough time. There are two problem statements, Madam Chair. We made one resolution. The second one was how we addressed the reputational issue. So we ought to have addressed and confirmed how we want to go forward, how management is proposing to go forward. I didn't get a clear statement, unless I missed it. I must admit I lost connectivity early. There wasn't a clear statement that I gathered from management that says, with regards to the reputational challenge, this is what we're going to propose, and then the executive saying we approve that. But maybe that went. Did that happen without me? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I think so. The risk, the head of risk, made some comments in that regard.
No, I'm right. The head of risk made comments, but did the director categorically approve? Was it interrogated and was it approved?
Okay, so
and that's what I mean about just controlling the keeping it tight to the points 1
Yeah.
and 2, ma'am.
Point two.
Because if not, you lose track of it.
Yeah.
And then CEO, you need to, management needs to also help the chair. Where this happens, at the end of the day, you're the one that has left the meeting without clarity on what it is that you need to go forward. And then company secretaries, you could have pointed this out as company secretaries, that there were 2 challenges, as far as you know, they're prayers to the board. One of them has been taken as unanimously approved, but the second one wasn't addressed at all.
Noted.
It's fun and games.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm saying here is the need to go into further detail, because we were looking at it like you have this main issue, right? And then our proposal, option 1 and option 2, were to address those main issues. The part of reputation we saw as a sub. So it was in the crisis management plan, but we didn't see the need to ask the board for approval to implement that portion of the crisis management plan. So, but from what I'm getting from you, it's important to actually say, I hope you are aligned with action 1 in the plan, number 2, number 3, before we now have the general overarching approval for the option.
I think anything that, the way I would look at it is anything that when you leave the board, you're going to be hesitant to sign off on. That's just it. When it gets, when that document hits your table, you want to just be able to look at it, read through, remember the meeting, and sign off with confidence.
Yeah. Can I ask? So, so that's one concern I have. You know, at the table we should expect strategy to some degree, and so for me, the experience is yes, option 1. But then again, at what point do we get to option 2? So there is that, instead of getting to a consensus, and there's an eagerness to reach a consensus because of the timing, because we were short of time. So to get to that consensus, you know, one might feel pressure to say, okay, option 1, let's go for it.
So that's what I meant to convey when I said the red lines. When I said what are the red lines that that the board is giving to management, that if you get to go ahead and pursue option 1, but if this happens, if the third party that has been agreed that is in the contract is not available, let us know immediately within 24 hours. If you're unable to source FX alternate product within the next 2 weeks, if your level of stores drops below X%, come back to us. Those are the red lines that you're speaking about now. Hi, Joyce. Sorry, I see your hand is up.
Okay. All right, thank you. So you answered a part of the question. So the other part was this. So I felt that when the chair had to be away from the room suddenly, and we felt that gap, and Adiola came in. So my question is, in real life, when that or should that happen by any, if it happens, is there a hierarchy or a pattern through which the secretary or should nominate or say, okay, can this person take over, or anybody can generally jump into the shoes? Just wanted to ask.
You know, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I'm 100% sure that there will be a hierarchy, but my experience has been that one of the more senior non-executive directors takes over. Usually, it'll be the chair of the committee whose issue where this issue would typically fall under. So if this is sitting under primarily the lead of the finance and general purpose committee, for example, or the risk committee, then typically that person would step in. But usually you would expect the non-executive directors to come in long before the company secretary to say, okay, we've lost the chairman. We're going to wait for a second, or we're going to give it 1 minute and then we're going to go on. And that decision, again, it depends on how key it is to have the chairman in the room. Sometimes you can't move forward without the chairman in the room. So that's definitely, I think, there will be no doubt some protocol that you can ask about later when you're dealing with the.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Are we both ready?
You know, honestly, you are. There's no way to get experience other than in it. I was lucky in that I managed to get some work reporting into boards and consulting before I had to sit in as a board member. It's the best thing because when you're in the once you move from the hot seat, it's easier to be a non-executive director. Yeah. But I mean, the responsibilities of an NED is not to be understated, and I would really urge that as NEDs, don't let the meetings get ahead of you. You have a comment, make sure it comes out.
Right.
Make sure you're helping, you're assisting the chairman, the chairperson.